Thanks to our organizing partners, Christine Lures and all the folks at FlipIt, and our own steering committee of Potluck Insurgency, Janice Weiner, Emily Silliman, Jackie Blank, Sarah Prinius, in addition to Jane and Ed Cranston, and especially Roseanne Cook, who has worked so hard on all these arrangements. Lonny is an excellent candidate, and I look forward to everyone getting a chance to hear him speak. Please keep in mind, this is a very flippable district. It is a close, close race. This is our chance to make a difference. If you believe in democratic values like education, healthcare, water quality, and fair treatment for workers and farmers, you have come to the right place. It is time for all hands to the pump. If we all join forces, we can do this. Bobby Kaufman has received a vast war chest from outside of the state, so please give generously.
So take it away, Roseanne.
Okay, Ed, do we have Eric on yet?
Actually, we sure do. Hey, Eric, welcome.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Thank you.
I didn't want to introduce him if he couldn't hear me. So I will start. I'm Roseanne Cook, one of the founders and facilitators of Potluck Insurgency, and I wanted to grab a couple of minutes tonight just so that those of you who receive about 1 million emails from me have a face to put with the name that you see on those emails. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. We're so excited to do this fundraiser for Lonny, and we really, really want to see him flip that seat in House District 73. It's also my honor tonight to welcome our two special guests, Representative Eric Swalwell and Iowa Representative Todd Prichard. First, I'm going to make a few comments about Eric. He represents District 15, Congressional District 15 in California, but his real claim to fame is that he was born in Sac City, Iowa, the first of 4 sons, and when his family lived in Iowa, his dad was police chief in Algona. The family later moved and settled in Dublin, California. As I mentioned, Representative Swalwell has been in the House, I think I mentioned anyways, in his 4th term. He was elected in 2013. And there are so many things that I could say about him, but won't take the time, which I'm sure we'll all appreciate because we want to hear from him. He does serve on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and on the House Judiciary Committee. And I know that many of us watched and appreciated his remarks on MSNBC and other news media outlets during the House impeachment hearings. I do want to close my introduction and reminding all of you and Eric as well as about two of my favorite Potluck Insurgency adventures. One was when we hosted Eric for Coffee and Donuts with Eric Swalwell on a warm July morning in the summer of 2018. At that time, he was considering a run for the presidency. Janice Weiner, who's probably here tonight, hosted that event. That was really fun. And then several months later, after he announced his run for the presidency, Jane and Ed hosted a wonderful gathering for a lot of us at their home so that we could celebrate with Eric and do our best to help him launch his candidacy. So Eric, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're just thrilled to have you. We really appreciate everything you do for your constituents and for all Americans, and we're just thrilled to have you. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Roseanne, for asking me to do this, and Janice and the Cranston family for hosting me in the past. As Roseanne mentioned, I grew up in Iowa and care deeply about what happens there. And I also see Tim and Becky on the line here as well, 2 dear friends who have hosted me and supported me all along the way. And I've actually just stepped away from my son's 3-year birthday party Obviously, in these times, it's a little bit different as to what a kid's birthday party looks like. But when you think about your 3-year-old and what you want for him and his future, it's certainly a future that cares a lot about public health, public education, and opportunity for all of us. And that's why I'm here to support the sheriff in his important run to take and flip a House seat. And that is so important. Again, as an Iowan, I love to point to my colleagues in the House about why it's so important to have independent redistricting. California does it, Iowa does it, most states don't. And we know that if the Republicans control the state house in Des Moines in 2021, that is likely to go away. And that would be a real shame and a step backward. I know for the sheriff, making sure that you keep that independence and that free and fair way of determining congressional districts is very paramount to his candidacy. I also just, before I go into why this race is so important, also want to recognize Dave Loebsack, who's retiring. He's been such a dear friend and such a great public servant for his congressional district. And we're going to miss Dave in the Congress. And Dave went for a very long time of being the only Democrat in the Iowa delegation to now being one of 3. And in many ways, that's because the Potluck Insurgency stepped up in 2018, as Roseanne alluded to, and you helped us send Abby Finkenauer and Cindy Axne to the United States Congress. And you gave us that majority that has put us in the position that we're in right now to make sure that we can prioritize public health during this pandemic. I just cannot imagine where we would be right now if we did not have a Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. And I know it's because grassroots organizations like Potluck, people like you who send postcards, knock on doors, send text messages and make phone calls, not just for your own community, but across Iowa, because you know what it means for your community, but also for the rest of us across the country. These are tough, challenging times. And I think as we go into November, whether it's local state house races or it's sending another Democrat to represent Iowa City in the United States Congress, or of course electing Joe Biden as our president, public health will be at the top of everyone's mind when they go to the ballot box. And fortunately, we have people who value public health. And having a sheriff running, somebody who is a first responder, who's dedicated his life to law enforcement, I think is a credential that can make Iowans proud. And so I want to do all I can. I am endorsing the sheriff, and I will also make sure that we click on the link and send a contribution there too. But I want to encourage all of you to do the same and know that I'm in this fight with you. I still very much care about what happens in Iowa. And I'm very grateful, again, as I said, for what Iowa did for the country to give us the majority. So we're going to get through this pandemic. Again, public health and competency in governing is our strength as Democrats. And those 2 issues are going to be on the ballot. And we're fortunate that we're going to have grassroots folks all across the country doing all we can to elect Democrats this coming November. So thank you again to the Insurgency. Sheriff, good luck. I was a prosecutor before I went to Congress. My 2 brothers work today as deputy sheriffs in my hometown. And I have all the respect in the world for what you've done in your career. And you could have just retired, as I know you're doing, and gotten out of public service, gone into the private sector. But instead, you have chosen to step up and serve your community at a time that it needs you so much. And so thank you for doing that. I wish you well, and you have my full support. So thank you, Roseanne.
Thank you, Eric. I hope we see you back in Iowa one of these days.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait to get back.
And happy birthday to your sweet little guy.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks a lot. So our next special guest, and we're very excited about this one also, is Representative Todd Prichard. He represents Iowa House District 52. He was elected in 2013 and has been minority leader in the House since 2019. He's a graduate of University of Iowa Law School, so I hope Todd has good memories of his time in the Iowa City, Coralville area. Another person who has many accomplishments, there's much to say about him. One I'll mention is that he was awarded Legislator of the Year by the Iowa Sheriff's Association. So I'm guessing that Lonny had something to do with that award. So I'm going to turn it over to Todd, who will introduce Lonny. But before I give it to Todd, I want to say, I give you Todd, the next majority leader of the Iowa House. And I think we should all applaud that notion. Thank you, Todd.
Well, I hope so. We've got a long ways to go between now and then, but that is our goal, is to get the majority. I first want to say thank you to everybody here. It's wonderful. You know, we always kind of do, you know, when you have an event, you say, well, how many people showed up? How many people were there? You know, and I look at how many people are here, and it's like, we haven't missed a beat as Democrats. We don't care if it's virtual or if it's in person. We're going to show up because we know how important it is to support folks like Lonny. So thank you all for showing up here on Zoom and having a look at a computer image of me with a haircut that I haven't had a haircut in about two months, so I'm due for a haircut. I can see on my picture here. One, I love the name Potluck Insurgency. That is incredible. That is I really like that name. I dealt with some insurgents in Iraq when I was a veteran, when I was serving in Iraq with the Army. But I think I like your insurgency much better than what I was used to in Iraq. So thank you for the kind introduction. I am Todd Prichard, originally from Davenport. I am 2 times a Hawkeye. I did my undergrad in Iowa City at the University of Iowa, and then went to the Army, and then came back and completed law school about 16 years ago at the University of Iowa College of Law. And to say I have good memories of Iowa City and the university is an understatement. It's one of some of the best times of my life. And I always love getting back to Iowa City. I also want to say thank you to Eric for supporting Lonny and all that Congressman Swalwell has done for Iowa Democrats. We first met at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake a few years ago, and it's glad that you are doing well, and so thankful that your caucus is the majority caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. You know, you think about, you know, I as a small business owner and Main Street business owner, you know, am so lucky, and I know that the reason the little guy was taken care of in some of the stimulus packages like the CARES Act and those types of things is because Democrats were there fighting for people like me, not just the big corporations. So hats off to what Eric, you have all done, and all of your colleagues in the Iowa House. And we are so glad that you are there working for us. I also want to say I saw my good friend, Senator Bob Dvorsky, and Zach Walls in the audience. It's wonderful to have both of them here. And you know, what a legacy that Johnson County and the Iowa City area have to be proud of, with Senator Dvorsky and now Senator Walls. You were extremely well represented in the Iowa Senate. I also want to recognize at least I know of 2 staffers from our House political staff that are here, and that's Sam and Truly. Sam is he's our director for finance. So he's the guy that manages the budget and helps us raise money that we need to run these campaigns. So Sam is here, and Truly is one of our campaign managers, one of the field staff people here, out really in the front lines, making these types of events work and helping the candidates spread the message of why they're running and the need for Democrats in the Iowa House. So thank you both to Sam and Truly. The urgency for the Iowa House this year, the stakes really couldn't be higher politically for the future of Iowa. You know, I used to kind of sell our program and the need to supporters of why we need your help, you know, contributions, volunteer hours, why we need people to run. And I used to say, you know, we have got a redistricting coming up, and we do. With the census this year, we will redistrict and we will redraw these lines. And if Democrats aren't at the table with a majority, at least in the House or the Senate or something, the Republicans, they don't need to change the rules. They can use the current rules, and they can do quite a bit of gerrymandering to pick a map that will write and underrepresent Iowans and help secure their majorities. Well, that used to be kind of my, my leadoff reason for why we need to elect more Democrats to the Iowa House and get the majority in that chamber. Well, now COVID has hit. And go back to where would we be at the U.S. Congress if we didn't have the Democratic control of the U.S. House of Representatives? Can you imagine if we come back next year in January and the Republicans have complete control over what this state will look like when we recover and rebuild after COVID? It would be a disaster, because the things that we prize and that we have built and will need to rebuild, like our education system, our healthcare system, our environmental initiatives and things like that, they will let those lay. And we have got to fight for those. We've got to be in a position of political leverage where Democrats have some lever of power and can leverage Democratic values to redefine what this state will look like when we recover. It should not just be up to Governor Reynolds. It needs to be up to Democrat ideas and the people of Iowa. That's really the importance of what's on the line with this election for the Iowa House. And it's why I am so excited. I'm thrilled. I met with Lonny, I think about 3 times to twist his arm to get him to run. And I knew all along, I knew Lonny was going to run, because I, as a former prosecutor, I was aware of what his philosophy was that he brought to his office of the Johnson County Sheriff, that he was a person of compassion and that he was a person who viewed his job as being a public servant. And I knew every time I met with Lonny, he said, "Oh, I'm going to retire. This isn't for me. I've got plans to go to Florida. I've got plans to retire. I want to do this." And I knew he was going to run, because I know in his heart of hearts, Lonny is a public servant. And I knew that when he would see the urgency and what he could bring to the table to affect change and help save our state, I knew Lonny couldn't say no, and he didn't. And that's why I am just so proud that a public, selfless servant like Lonny Pulkrabek is running. And he's standing up and he's saying, right is right, wrong is wrong, and we need to keep and build the Iowa that we can all be proud of, that values individuals, that values its people. And that is Lonny Pulkrabek's record of service, and that will be his record of service, I know, as he represents Johnson and Cedar counties in the Iowa House of Representatives. So, Lonny, thank you. I am so happy that you are running, and thank you for doing this. The stage is yours.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, first of all, and having Congressman Swalwell on to show me some support. What an honor. I'm just humbled, really, by having him on there. And Leader Prichard, I appreciate the kind words. I'm not sure you're correct. I really didn't know that I was going to run, but yes, you're persuasive, and you're absolutely right. It did become, after speaking with you multiple times, it did become apparent that this is something I needed to do. But also thank you to the Potluck Insurgency, and thank you to FlipIt Iowa. This event tonight has been promoted tremendously. I've seen it everywhere I turned on social media and things like that. Special thanks to all the work by Jane and Ed Cranston on this, and Roseanne Cook and Christina Lewis. And of course, he mentioned, Leader Prichard mentioned Truly Wingert, who is my campaign manager, and she's helped me a lot, because frankly, I'm new to this. I was, I'm a sheriff, I'm a cop, a law enforcement officer, and that's all I ever wanted to be. And so now going into a different level of politics and trying to win over the House is a different environment for me. So I have a lot to learn. And, I've grown up a hard worker, and so I know how to work hard, but this is just all new for me. So I just want to tell you, there's a lot of people out there who have no idea who is this Lonny Pulkrabek guy. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. You know, I grew up in small town Iowa, LaPorte City, up in Blackhawk County. Divided family. My mom was a union employee at John Deere, and my dad was a company guy at John Deere. So I grew up listening about unions and things like that, and all the good that they do. Went to college at Kirkwood Community College first, and got my AA there, and got my bachelor's from Mount Mercy College in Cedar Rapids. 1985, I was fortunate enough to be hired by the Johnson County Sheriff's Office and Gary Hughes, and in life, I got married in 1991, and out of that I'm still married, by the way, to my wonderful wife, Julie, who is a lawyer. And we have one son, Sam. Sam's 25, and he is supposed to get married this summer to my future daughter-in-law, Jalen. While at the sheriff's office, when working in the patrol division, I was one of the group of people that organized our union for our office. We knew that the importance of being able to have a voice and be able to be at the table and be able to discuss the things that come along with having a union and being organized. It was something that was a major challenge, but we got it done. In 2005, I got elected sheriff. It was just a fantastic experience becoming sheriff. I've enjoyed every bit of it. And right away, I got to work on some of the things that were important to me. In 2005, we hired our first jail alternatives coordinator. I'm sorry, I got to slow down. And that was really to get, you know, we've been dealing with jail overcrowding forever, and that was really to get started on some alternatives to jailing. And one of the first things that we did with that program was to get started. The law enforcement officers, all of us in the area, have in-service training together. And one of the first things we did was our jail alternatives coordinator started giving some mental health training, additional mental health training during this service or during these years. And we'd never done that before in Johnson County. And after that, the next project became crisis intervention training. That was not only just for the Johnson County Sheriff's Office, but that was for all law enforcement agencies, EMS and fire. You know, to have the crisis intervention training to give the officers on the streets another tool in the toolbox to deal with somebody who is in crisis, some sort of mental health crisis, was really important to me. That program really took off across the state, including when we were hosting crisis intervention trainings in our own area in Johnson County. We opened that up to other places that were outside the region. Not only that, we worked to get the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy to incorporate that crisis intervention training into their curriculum. It's not the full 40 hours, but it is much better than it was before. One of the big accomplishments in Johnson County that I also feel very proud of is bringing together a group that put together the Joint Emergency Communications Center. This put the dispatchers all under one room, or under one roof, in one room, and put all the law enforcement agencies, fire and EMS, all the first responders, everybody on the same radio system. And we put together a system that was, it was the one that everyone else should follow, and many did follow, and it is really the standard for the state of Iowa. So also during my time as sheriff, I've been very fortunate and was elected to the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association, which was referenced earlier by Leader Prichard. And you know, it was just an honor to be elected president. That is a huge nonpartisan organization, and so be able to rise to the level of president was awesome. One of the things I was responsible for at least one year is leading the legislative committee, but I was on that legislative committee for several years, so I had an opportunity to work with Representative Masher, Representative Jacoby, Representative Lensing, and Representative Nielsen. And my hope is give up this law enforcement hat and go to work with them in Des Moines as colleagues. The last thing that really I've been working on, not necessarily me, but my office, because I directed somebody to work on, is Johnson County is building the new GuideLink Center. Now, it's called Guidelink Center, but most of you, if you've heard the conversation about an access center, that's really what it is. And Johnson County is building one. It's under construction now in Iowa City there. Now, talk about reasons to run. Frankly, you know, what I have to ask everyone is, what has Bobby Kaufman really done in this district? You know, what he does is he pretends to reach across the aisle. He promotes himself as being able to work across the aisle. But bottom line is, he does exactly what his dad says, what the governor says, and what Trump says. They all fall in line together. Bobby does not stand up to the governor for what is right for Iowans and for what is right for this district. And so with my experience, I did skip over one other thing. That I was very fortunate to be the president of ISAC. So the ISAC is the Iowa State Association of Counties, which represents all county affiliates. So secondary roads and board of supervisors, the other county elected officials, planning and zoning. And that, because of that presidency, again, it's nonpartisan. And because of that, I've been able to build relationships all over the state of Iowa. So I can build connections if I'm working in the House. And that's one of the things I think I bring to the table. You know, a couple of the big things, and Leader Prichard mentioned this, but what does keeping Bobby Kaufman in office mean for Iowans? What that means is 2021 with the redistricting, it's going to be, they're going to have their way with the redistricting. There'll be gerrymandering. It'll be more difficult for us to elect Democrats to Congress. It'll, you know, I mean, you can look at this district I'm trying to run for. I think, you know, having the fact that there was a little section that was cut out that happens to contain him and gave him all of Cedar County, you know, we know that that is only going to get worse for us and Democrats. And that's something that's really important to me. Frankly, one of the other things that's important to me is the fact that I know that Jeff Kaufman does not want Bobby Kaufman to lose this race. And they will throw everything they can at this race to try and keep Bobby in that seat. And this seat is very, very flippable if you look at the numbers. But honestly, what it takes is fundraising. Events like tonight, events like you all opening up your wallets and giving to me is so important, because they are raising a ton of money and I need to raise a lot of money to be competitive. So please, again, give if you haven't give, and ask your friends to give and talk about me. And you know, it's a different type of year, so we've got to have the funds to get this thing going. You know, obviously the COVID-19 thing is going to be a very big challenge for the legislature when they go back, and I really want to be part of that. I've been a part of bringing people together to resolve tough issues my whole 15 years as sheriff, and I want to be a part of that. We all know that they have not supported public education. The Republicans continue to underfund it, and I cannot wait to get there and make sure that we are taking care of our public schools. The affordable healthcare, the prescription drug prices, all that continue to climb. I want to have an impact on that for regular everyday Iowans. The better mental health services for people. You know, one of the things about that is we see people with mental health issues and substance abuse issues come to the jails all the time. And I think if we had better mental health services with an earlier intervention, such as while they're in high school or junior high, you know, maybe we can make an impact and keep somebody that out of prison, that path going down the wrong path to prison. You know, clean water is a problem. Again, what has Bobby done in this district? If you look at the city of Tipton, they're struggling themselves with water treatment, and they're going to spend a ton of money. They just finally voted to do it, but what has Bobby done for them? Has he helped them on anything? I haven't heard anybody say, yeah, Bobby Kaufman stepped up, got leadership to line up and help our cities out. And so that's what I'm here to do. I want to help small town Iowa to make sure that that we're taking care of them. And lastly, the family farms. You know, my dad was a hobby farmer, but I worked on small farms my whole life until I went to college. And so protecting the family farms and watching the takeover of the large corporate farms, my goal is to protect the families. So thank you again, and appreciate it. And I assume we're going to have some questions.
I want to thank Lonnie and all our speakers for being with us this evening. You know, Iowa used to stand for something, a certain fairness, quality education, a feeling of civic empowerment, and so much of that has been taken away by the trifecta that the Republicans have had on this state. It's time that we took Iowa back. This is one of our best chances to win back a House seat, which could tip the balance to Democrats having a majority in the House and would end the Republican stranglehold on Iowa. So I hope everybody will give generously. And now I think Ed is going to conduct questions.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jane. Yes, before we go to questions, once again, if you take a look at chat, you can just click right there. It's not going to be any easier to help flip the House than to click on chat, click on the URL there, and go make a donation. So right now, what I'd like to do is take some questions. So if you were on a computer, just right down below, if you click on chat, you can tap your question in there. Or if you would like to ask your question, just go ahead and raise your hand. And that, it should be down below there. Below, if you've clicked on participants, click on raise hand. If you're on an iPad, up there in that corner on that side, you can see the word more. Again, you can click there, click on chat to donate, click on chat to write a question, or click on raise your hand. If you're on an iPhone, down below, you're going to click on the word more. And again, there you're going to, chat is going to let you ask a question or go ahead and donate. And then also, you could also raise your hand. So let's go ahead and let's see, our first question is from Mary Masher. So Mary says, Lonnie, Vicki, Amy, Dave, and I are looking forward to working with you too, exclamation point. What do you need to do to win in Cedar County? How can we help you? Lonnie.
Well, I think the big thing is assist me in obtaining, firing up volunteers, raising money. Those are the big things. We've really been doing a lot with the campaign. I've started my wellness calls already. Those are going really well. And for those of you who don't know what they are, basically I'm just calling people in the district. I've already been doing some calling in the district on behalf of the Brad Kunkel campaign, but these are calling people who are a little bit further on in age and just checking on them and having a conversation. And that's gone really well. It's actually, what was most interesting to me though was on my third phone call was actually to my mom. So I got to talk to my mom and check on her, which she appreciated. She got a chuckle out of it and she appreciated it. But I need all the help I can get. At some point in time, we don't know if we're going to be able to knock doors. So we've got to find other creative ways to reach out to people. We've got people, I've got friends started and volunteers started on doing the letter writing campaign and things like that. So, obviously to have your names all working with me and supporting me, that helps boost me and motivate me as well too. Cause, like I said before in the beginning, I'm a hard worker. I'm very competitive, and I'm not here to lose this. I'm here to send Bobby home to his farm or whatever it is he does. I get farmer, but I don't know.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. Hey, we have actually it's a comment from Roseanne Cook. Roseanne says, "I want to thank those who are already donated on Act Blue." Looks like we're getting lots of donations out there tonight, and invite them to give again if they have been inspired by what Lonnie and our guest speakers have had to say. So thanks, Roseanne. That's a great idea. You guys know where to find that URL. So Christian Andrews says, thank you for running, Lonnie. I am a volunteer with the Lisbon Mount Vernon Ambulance Service. Do you have some ideas to share on how we could fund EMS across the state as an essential service? Lonnie.
Well, I don't have any specific ideas on how to fund that. That is something that has been brewing for the last couple of years. I'm very well aware of it, and it's something that is necessary. I have some personal experience in that. In fact, that it's sort of a long story, but I'll try and shorten it up. We're very fortunate here in Johnson County. Our EMS and first responders are absolutely second to none in the state of Iowa. And I happened to come across a motorcycle crash a long time ago, and I was one of the first ones there. And the EMS and fire, they're good people that volunteer, but they didn't have the tools and the training, and they weren't there as quick as I would think that if this would have happened in Johnson County, they would have been there much quicker. I don't want to put them down because they're good people and things like that, but it is a necessary service. And if you are in law enforcement for as many years as I've been in it, you see lots of these tragedies, and the people that, the look on people's face when you show up and they are in trouble is amazing. And so the feeling of getting there and helping them, knowing that you got EMS and fire coming to help you as well, that's a good feeling, and minutes count, no matter what kind of a medical issue or of a crash or something like that. But it's a necessary thing that we'll get pushed through.
So Helen asked, how would you support red flag or extreme risk prevention orders, given the high gun suicide numbers in Iowa?
Well, I've been dealing with guns and gun permits my whole life. And I think the red flag issue is one that needs to come to Iowa. Right now, some of the tweaks that are going on is, frankly, we need ways to be able to we need universal back checks. I support a person's right to own a gun and protect their house and their property. But the ones that want to carry them out in public, we need universal background checks on people. We need to avoid the constitutional amendment. We know that's one of the other big things. If Bobby keeps this seat and if the Republicans hold the House, we know the constitutional amendment on firearms is going to come up for sure in the legislature. And so that's another reason why we need to flip the House and I need to flip this seat. But one of the other things that I think needs to be changed is the people that are getting firearms permits. I believe they need to have a proficiency requirement. Right now, somebody gets a permit because they take a class online, and there's no requirement that they know how to make sure that projectile goes downrange at what they're aiming at. And I've just never supported that. Our law enforcement out there, we all have to qualify with our guns twice a year. Military has to qualify. You've got to show some sort of proficiency, and that needs to be changed.
Actually, let's just stay again with that same questioner. In Iowa, 79% of gun deaths are suicides and 17% are homicides. This is compared with 61% and 36% respectively nationwide. Excellent and comprehensive answer, Lonnie. So I thought I'd just throw that in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Jesse Singerman. Jesse says, thank you for running, Lonnie. What is your position on reproductive rights and women's health?
Well, frankly, I would prefer that, let's face it, we're talking about abortion. I would prefer that there never had to be any abortions. But the bottom line is, I'm a 56-year-old white man, and I don't think I should be telling a woman what to do with their bodies. And it's that simple.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. Actually, that's all of our questions right now. Any other questions? It could be that everyone's out there on that website trying to donate. So if you're out there donating, come on back and ask a question.
Ed, it looks like Larry's question is.
Oh, I see that. I see it. Yeah, I'm on top of this. Hey, Larry. Larry says, thanks for putting this on. Cedar County is excited about having Lonnie running and looks forward to doing all we can to get him elected. So thank you, Larry, and you Cedar County folks.
I will I will react to that. I can't wait to represent the folks in Cedar County. I've been meeting with them and getting to know them, and they're really good people over there. I'm excited to work for them, and they've been a great help and a lot of support already. Lots of people we've just chatted, and Larry's been a huge help. Of course, he is the chair of the Cedar County Dems, and I can't wait to work for Cedar County.
Actually, let's go to Todd Prichard. Todd, can you join us again here in just a second? I'll spotlight video you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing with the question about gun control and background checks that Lonny answered and talked a little bit about, and you alluded to it. I kind of want to give a little bit more detail. It just kind of highlights again the urgency of this election in 2020. So to amend the Iowa Constitution, a measure has to pass in two general assemblies. So it has to, a general assembly is 2 years. One general assembly is 2 years. So if you will remember, in the 17 and 18 General Assembly, the Republicans passed this strict scrutiny language constitutional amendment, which is, it's not even the Second Amendment. It's basically a piece of legislation modeled after Louisiana and I think Alabama that would basically make it very easy to strike down existing gun control laws like background checks and things like this. And just basic, what you would consider just common sense public safety measures. Well, Paul Pate didn't notice that amendment correctly in the papers. And so the Republicans hoped that in this legislative session, the 19 and 20, they were going to repass it, and then it becomes a voter initiative. It goes to the general voters on a general ballot. We did this with the water quality with the I Will Trust Fund. So the Republicans had to start again. They passed on party line vote. They passed their language to amend the Constitution to this crazy language. And now because of Paul Pate's mistake, they have to again pass it next year. Well, they'll pass it again if they keep control, if we don't take control of the Iowa House. This is again one of these things that it's based on misinformation. It's basically ludicrous and unnecessary. So I kind of wanted to say, hey, here's one more reason we need people like Lonny Pulkrabek in the Iowa House.
Hey, thanks a lot, Todd. Next question, let's go to Christina Bohannon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Hi, hey Lonny, good to see you. So I just wanted to ask a question. You know, you and I were both at a League of Women Voters forum not long ago, before obviously everybody went inside their homes all the time. And we were talking about CAFOs, right? And it was an environmental forum. And so it was really an interesting dynamic there where you had people from Iowa City, you know, talking about, should we have a moratorium on new CAFOs and things like that? And then you had, of course, Bobby had brought a lot of his friends in, and they were, you know, not happy with that idea and talking about how, you know, they're doing everything voluntarily, that it just makes sense for them to, you know, use manure and to do all these things because it's cost effective for them. And yet we still have a pretty bad water quality issue here in Iowa. And so, you know, I feel for the farmers in this situation because, you know, they're struggling to make ends meet here too. But, you know, the water quality issue is pretty pressing and pretty bad at this point. You know, how do you think people feel there about that? And how would you handle that issue as you're talking to people?
Yeah, that is a great question. You know, I don't know a lot about the matrix, but what I do know is I have a couple of friends who actually are big hog farmers that are in Johnson County. And I've talked to them a little bit about it. And they assured me that they don't have manure leaks from their facilities and things like that, because they've assured me that they care about the environment as well. And so it's something that I need to learn about. I know that the matrix system is out there, but again, because of my experience of being on ISAC, I talked to the elected officials from Northwest Iowa, and a couple of those counties say that if if they aren't able to have their large hog farms, then that whole county will be hurting and Iowans will be hurting. That will trickle down to the rest of Iowa. So it's a very, very fine line, a very important one to walk, because we know that we've all read the stories about the hog production areas where they have had the large leaks and they have spills and you have the fish kills and things like that. And those are things that we need to get a handle on and cover them.
Hey, thanks a lot, Lonnie. Next question is from Mark. The state budget cannot work given the drop in tax proceeds. What can we do to push our U.S. senators to consider helping fill the gap for education, public safety, and Medicaid, which represents a majority of the Iowa state budget? Lonnie.
Yeah, well, the first thing you can do is stop electing Republicans, because they don't care. They truly don't care about that. What they absolutely care about is taking care of their wealthy donors, big corporations, and companies like that. And so, it's those of us that have the D by our name that care about public education and public funding and funding public safety. I mean, we talked about it with Christian earlier on the Zoom meeting about making sure EMS and fire is part of an essential service. Public safety has to be funded. I give the Board of Supervisors, of course, I'm friends with them, but I also give them some grief and tell them, public safety is your number one priority, because selfishly, I'm the sheriff. You should always give the sheriff exactly what he wants, he or she. And but we've got to fund that. And we've got to fund public schools. We've got to fund public education. We can't be making huge cuts to the University of Iowa. College has to be affordable for our young people. Otherwise, we don't have a lot of hope for our kids moving forward when they come out of high school.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. From Adam Herrick. Lonnie, you would be taking office about the time the economic fallout from COVID-19 will greatly affect tax revenue and the state budget. How will you maintain essential public services throughout the state in face of a budget shortfall?
Again, that's going to be the tough question. But we have a lot of good leadership and good experience on the Democrats, and I think it's a matter of prioritizing what's best for Iowa. And what I view as best for Iowa, I can assure you, is not what Bobby Kaufman views as best for Iowa. And so taking a look at, I've made tough decisions my whole life, my whole career. I think those of us in law enforcement understand very, very difficult decisions to make. The budgeting, obviously I'm in charge of submitting my budget to the Board of Supervisors and they make those decisions. But I've been involved in many decisions, putting together the JEC, the Joint Communication Center. It was not without controversy. It was not without making tough financial decisions and things like that. But I think that prepared me for this. I understand when I got on the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association, our budget wasn't great, but I helped push some people to make some goals financially to make our association stronger. And today, our association is the strongest it's ever been. So I know how to make those tough decisions.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie. From Helen, how do you plan to campaign given coronavirus?
That's a great question. So I think, it's a matter of doing the phone calls that I'm making to start with, our letter writing campaign. Obviously we're going to have to do electronic media and direct mailing, things like that, to try and get people's attention. By getting volunteers that eventually will help make phone calls and explain to them that we want to elect Lonny Pulkrabek, bring his 35 years to add to Senator Kinney's 30 years and have 65 years of law enforcement experience to go and work under the Gold Dome and work for Iowans and make all of our lives better.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. Also, my mistake. That was Holly rather than Helen. From Janice Weiner. we need your experience and ability to get things done with a broad coalition, Lonnie. I'm in for $100.
Thanks. That's great, Janice. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. You know, I will draw on that experience I've had as serving as the president of the Iowa State Association of Counties and the Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association. I can reach any given time. There's people on the other side of the state that I can reach and reach out to and communicate with. And it's just, you know, the fortune that I've had to serve in those roles. And, you know, I think by sending me to Des Moines, I'm a consensus builder and able to work with people and get things done. And the bottom line is working with Masher, Jacoby, Lensing, and Nielsen, we're going to get things done. And of course, under Leader Prichard's guidance.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. Actually, I don't know, Janice. That sounds like a challenge to me. So, who's going to top Janice? So I just wait here until someone else comes up with another number there for us. So, yeah, feel free to let us. I think that's a big challenge there. So go ahead. Hey, from Scott Carpenter, when elected, on what committees would you like to serve?
Well, I think the obvious one would be public safety. It's what I know, but you know, I'm a quick learner on some things, and I'll go wherever I'm needed. If someone needs to put me on a committee where they need a strong consensus builder who can be on a committee where it's maybe pretty divided, you know, that's where I'll go. I'll go where I'm asked to go. Let's face it. I'm trying to win this House seat. I want to flip Iowa's House blue, and I want to send Bobby Kaufman home. And I want to give Jeff Kaufman maybe an extra boost to get him sent home too and kicked out of the Republican Party. I don't know. Leadership, Republican Party leadership, I should say.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie. Hey, I'm going to interrupt here because I just saw that challenge was met. And it looks like, I believe that's Christina said, me too, Janice. So, okay, there's another challenge out there. So, okay, let's go to Leslie. Leslie Carpenter, the most direct way to increase mental health services and professionals in our state is to increase reimbursement rates for professional and direct care staff. Would you support this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an area, the area that is so troublesome. Our state is just not doing what we need to do for people. And, you know, I've got a bit of experience. What happens is counties such as Johnson end up stepping up and doing things for a population that needs help, and including, you know, especially the people that are struggling with substance abuse or mental health abuse. And frankly, I'm proud of the Board of Supervisors and the cities in this area, and that they're building the GuideLink Center. That's a great step. But what we need is for people like myself and that are going to be working in Des Moines, along with the other representatives and the senators, to make sure that we are supporting the counties that are doing these projects and making sure that we're taking care of our most vulnerable population in Iowa.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie, and thanks, Leslie, for that question. From Nick Maybanks, as no surprise that Kim Reynolds is no fan of Vipers. Give us a preview of how you will make a case to retain IPERS when the Republicans go after it again, this time using the budget and COVID as an excuse to attack it.
There is no doubt they laid the groundwork last year, and that's why it's so important to flip the House this year. Obviously, you know, I come from the IPERS group, and, you know, the fact of the matter is Bobby Kaufman and the Republicans supported the governor. They could have taken that item out of that bill when they passed it as part of the budget bill, and they didn't, because they want to come at IPERS. And what bothers me the most about this, and what's sad about it, is the fact that I have so many Republican friends that are going to that have put into IPERS their whole life, their whole career, and they don't see the damage that they did to IPERS. And there is no doubt we will we will protect IPERS. We're going to take care of the public employees. After all, we know that the public employees are on the front lines and they're risking their lives every day for us to keep the rest of us Iowans safe. And IPERS will be protected if I'm elected.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie. And I'm going to have to hop in here again. We have another donation update, and this is from John McAtee, and he says, we've joined you too, Janice. We hope you have a big win, Lonnie. So
thank you.
Hopefully we're not done with those challenges. Keep it going. So from Wes, hi, Lonnie. I'm the legislative director of Wolfpack, Iowa. We are pushing for an amendment convention to get the corrupting influence of private money in our political process. This legislation that I've introduced has been supported by all of the legislators that are on this call, introduced by Representative Jacoby and Senator Kinney. What is your position on money in politics?
Well, there's two names that I trust a great deal. Representative Jacoby, he and I go way back. His wife co-chaired my first campaign for sheriff. And so we have a bond and a trust. And because this is something I don't know anything about, I would go to them. I would go to Dave and have him explain to me. But again, the other name, Senator Kinney, who I helped recruit to become a state senator after working with him for 30 years, I have a lot of trust in him. And I can assure you, if Senator Kinney believes that this is the right thing to do, and so does Representative Jacoby, I'm on board.
Hey, thanks, Lonnie. Actually, just a kind of a partial update. That was from John McAtee, but also Jane Lyons was in on that challenge there too. So, okay, I don't see any other questions right now. A last call for questions, but I mean, it's, you know, what a treat to have our special guest, U.S. Representative Eric Swalwell, Todd Prichard, the House Minority Leader, and then also having Lonnie. I mean, it's he's been a great sheriff, and he will make one heck of a House representative. So all we can do for Lonnie, this is just one event tonight. We've got a long ways to go to November, so I'm sure there's going to be some signs out there, and there's going to be other things that Lonnie's going to want some help with. So, but again, thanks for the all the Potluck Insurgency folks. Thanks for the FlipIt Iowa, and one last thing here. Actually, you can just see the comments down there. You know, people are thanking you for running. Todd says we need Lonnie in Des Moines. Please help him win. Thank you all for this great event. And then also from Jesse, thanks for running, Lonnie. I donated too. Okay, we got another challenge. Maybe we should keep this going here. So, okay, I'm not going to close down quite yet, but again, Lonnie, it was a great event. So thanks everybody for coming, and I'm sure we'll have some more of these. Take care.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate everyone coming. Thank you guys for everyone for putting it on. And thanks to those of you that are issuing the challenges and continue to support me, because that's the help I need. And an event like this gets my batteries charged and I'm ready to go. So I really appreciate it. Thank you to all of you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Take care.